Hello, good afternoon and good evening, everybody. Welcome to Town Hall number 56. It's the 18th of August, 2024. As usual, I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts, Marek and Fansmaker.
Hey everyone.
Hello.
And as usual, we'll also give a few minutes for people to join us live. Okay. Hi, basket over. We'll actually start with our content in about 1 minute from now. Oh, there's some new questions in the Discord channel, which is good. Hi, Greg. Hello, Edwin. Yeah, good questions like usual. Okay, I believe we can start with the content, and those who aren't with us yet will either catch up or watch the recording. Without further ado, we will get straight into the content. First off, an overview. We'll be talking about the 3D viewer, updates to that. Actually, this is, I think, in the opposite order, but we have the 3D viewer, we have the development updates, game design, marketing updates, and some AMA questions. So we actually start with development this time. We're kind of switching things around. I'll just start with just a primer, and then maybe if Nick can take us through a little bit more. But basically, we already have an MVP that's functional. Very happy to say that since we got the automatic claiming of horses, it's a much smoother experience. And anybody who has access to the platform can just connect their wallet, look at the race list, join a race that they want, wait until the race starts, look at the results of the race or watch the race live in 3D, I mean, and they will get their prize and their horses back. And that's a full loop of how the game plays, at least from the racing point. What this also means, though, is that this is a very limited, let's say, MVP, because we currently only use one single race distance. We use one current single rule set for entry, etc., etc. And now we're working on basically supporting the other parts that are there and it's built to support, but we need just a bit of testing, some small integration things, etc. So we have 2 new team members also that have actually, one has started and one will join us soon. One is a web developer who will be helping Kayo, or along with Kayo in the team, and a 3D developer who's actually built the Unity toolkit for Babylon. I think will help us immensely with the optimization of the code. Nick, I'm sorry if the slides are not very structured for your, let's say, update, but if you can just give us an idea of what's happening or what we have so far and what we have next.
You basically just said everything. But yeah, so Fahad glanced over just every point on the slide. We have an MVP that works, and we're going to add all the other track distances and courses that happen on the same track, the Yarra Gardens track that we have now. And we're adding the jockeys in. For now, it's always the same jockey, so we're just going to have the jockeys added into the transactions and picked up by the engine correctly. Most of the pieces are already there. We just need to string everything together. Basically, we're still in this big integration phase of we have all the pieces pretty much, and we just need to put them all together and have them working coherently together. That's still a big thing to happen, and that's where a lot of friction happens. But that's going well now, and we're adding, like we said, 2 more people. One of them is the guy that built the plugin that we're using to interface between Unity and Babylon. It's going to be helping us a lot with optimization, but he also put in new features to the plugin specifically upon my request. We're probably going to optimize a lot the game for the textures and the caching things. And yeah, Fahad also said that. So we've got automatic claiming now. So when the races are done, basically, in our first draft, you had to go and get your horse back, right, manually. But now we've got a bot that just goes around and send the horses back to everybody. This is still protected by the smart contract, by the way. So what that means is it's only possible to return the horse to the owner. Whoever builds the transaction, basically, the transaction is only valid if it returns the horse to the right owner. So now we just had a bot do it, but the bot cannot get it wrong. If it gets it wrong, basically the transaction will be invalid. So it's a safe way to just automatically return your horses, but protected by the smart contract.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, Nick, I didn't mean to put you on the spot again. I thought I'd only glossed over some of the parts, but I did actually end up.
I think you talked about everything.
Yeah, there is one actually that's not on here, which is horse activation. So we've also made progress on that, horse activation and naming. That hasn't been fully integrated yet, but I'd say the blockchain part of it and some of the functions of it have already been done. So it's only the front end and testing that are remaining for that. But right now we're assuming that all horses are activated in the testnet. So we're just allowing all horses to race. But once we have the horse activation functioning correctly, which will be on the mainnet for Pioneer horses, then we'll put a condition that only activated horses will age and only activated horses will be able to run in races. So that's another thing. Okay, on the 3D viewer side of things, we have 3 main development activities or 3 main things. One is supporting a wider range of courses. So we've been doing 7 furlongs, the same one that you guys might have seen the last invitational. Supporting different distances, I would say. We have already the 3D scene for it, and we have the whole, let's say, main structure for it to work. Just that there were so many variables that it wasn't really cemented in. So now we've done it in a way which is a fairly clean pipeline. We haven't yet fully finished, let's say, that testing of that, but it's, I'd say, also almost there. Where we had already defined from a very long time ago what are the courses that will be supported, but it's just setting it up so it starts in the right side of the track in the correct, let's say, chute or entrance for that track, and then how the turns are defined, etc. And there's some texture loading issues that we saw in the invitational where the jockeys, for example, have their face with a strange line in the middle. The white markings were not loading correctly. So I think it was just, let's say, the application of the textures was not as per the original spec. So we'll just be fixing those bugs. And then, as we mentioned earlier, with our new team member, there's going to be a lot of improvement for the performance of the racing scene. There's still more things to happen, but these are, I think, the key ones that we need for the next phase. You have the walk animations, for example, in the introduction, camera angles, etc. So after we fixed the auto-claiming, or we supported auto-claiming, a bit more internal testing has happened, because some team members can now race easily and they get their horses easily back. But we're also facing some, I won't say facing issues, but rather the nature of testing is people have different setups. So some people have faced different issues that we're now trying to pick up on, just to avoid them happening to users going forward. And on the game design, this is a bit of a sparse slide, which had more content, but I removed for sake of clarity. But the main actually priority coming up for the game design side, and I know Craig is with us here watching the stream, but it's balancing of the race engine. Not really an easy task, especially that we don't have that much data in terms of races now, though it's our own engine. But we're working along with Nick to test the existing engine and figure out basically how we should adjust and fine tune. I think I've explained this in past town halls, so no need for me to go through it extensively, but there's a bunch of small, let's say, tool building, and there's a very interesting approach in how we can handle, for example, horses of different age, how we can handle basically the impact of each of the stats on the track, and so on and so forth. So that's an activity. And on the marketing side, I guess, Mark, if you can just take us through the idea. We have a very interesting ambition for the next invitational. I think the last one was very ambitious in that we committed basically to running it on our engine, and I think it was a big success. We're making the stakes a bit higher this next time, and again taking the next step where we want to do this in September, not in August. So it's going to be again next month. We're still going to use the same, let's say, double price of 2,000 ADA, but we will also, our intention is, and I will leave just a little bit of space in case we can't meet the whole, let's say, intention, but our intention is that this invitation is actually on the blockchain, and that the users actually enter their own horses by themselves. If all goes well, that means they have horses on the testnet or an equivalent of their horse, and they will be able to activate their horse, name it, enter it into the race, and then we can all watch it live together. That's the intention, and we'll work towards that. Mark, please, if you can take us through the details.
Sure. You basically covered it almost all.
I'm sorry. I have a bad habit of doing this. Yeah.
It's okay. No, so as I said, like we want to, so we are not doing one this month just because we want to make the next one big one. We thought that this time we would aim for 4 races of 12 horses each, so 48 total. We will take submissions the same way we did last time, with some modification because we'll need extra data. However, what we decided, because we wanted, this will be special, so we wanted to kind of reserve half of those entries that will be decided to be up to our discretion, right? We want to make sure that people who have been supportive and engaged are participating if they submit their horses. If not, we cannot do much. And the rest will be completely random. Now, will be a Google form as always. We'll have the prizes, as Fahad mentioned, 508 per race. But the big thing here, and yes, execution, we'll see if we can get it fully 100% the way we want it perfectly, or we'll simplify it a little bit. But the idea is that everyone who will participate in this, the 48 horses or owners, will kind of automatically become a testers after the invitational, right? So they we'll invite them to test. To be very clear, we will, create it in a way that is fair, because we discussed that before. So we will give them a random horses that will be potentially somewhat scrambled at that point, because we don't want to give anyone an unfair advantage for being a beta tester. But we'll sort out those details and share them with you likely in the coming weeks with the details probably in the next town hall. So I think that covers it pretty much.
Yeah, the idea is the intention is to run the invitational with a duplicate of your mainnet horse that you will be submitting. But then we want to implement it in a way where it's only usable once in the testnet. So we try to give it a flag or a condition if that works out. And then after the event happens, then we will be giving out random testnet horses to those participants for testing, since they already have access to the platform, etc. So again, it's a little bit of an ambitious target, but obviously we're all working towards the mainnet release, and we think this brings us closer to the mainnet release by having more people come on board, and that we want to have as seamless as possible of an experience for those users. So it's a test for us also to bring that forward. By the next town hall, which will be in the middle of September, we'll have a clearer view of how much of this ambition we can achieve, hopefully all of it. But also please allow some room in case we need to change this format in one way or the other. Also, please bear in mind that the testnet horses are not meant to hold any value. So I just hope that there is no speculation on the side of the testnet horses themselves. We don't intend for these to be spread around or sent around, etc. They're more for the recipients themselves, if we can ask that from our community. All right. There's a bunch of AMA questions, so I will take those. There's also a few in Discord that are not on the slides. One is, do we get free horses in the game for newcomers who want to try it out outside of the paid/real NFT races? That's an extremely good question. Actually, we've seen that when we go through our onboarding strategy and we go through our user acquisition strategy, we realize that one of the bigger, let's say, pain points, let's say, challenging newcomers from joining, could be the initial fee or the initial cost of buying a horse. We have a few different ideas for how we want to handle that. I'd say initially, such a system won't be implemented, but we see the value of being able to welcome people with free horses. The game design challenge of this is, if these free horses, for example, are in the same environment as the paid horses, then that's not particularly fair for the paid horse users, unless they're very limited. We see other platforms and how they've done it in different ways. So there's a few different, let's say, interesting approaches to doing this. We have also a novel approach that we could implement for this. But the short answer is, we have this on our radar. We don't have this fully crystallized yet. We recognize that it's an important way to improve user acquisition. But at the same time, we are not rushing to a solution that could impact the game design, especially considering how much it could affect the actual horse owners at the moment. When can we expect additional details on the training of our horses and methods to enhance their stats? So we're actually still sticking to the original intended design for training, which I suppose is described in our even original white paper. But the idea is, every horse, in its configuration page, there's a training plan. And that plan is where you can define which stats you want to focus on, right? And one is you set the plan for the horse. Number two is you should race that horse, so it should be fairly active. There's a certain threshold for that. We clarified that. And then every end of the month, or rather every beginning of the month, when the horse ages one year in horse years, it will, at the time of preparing that update, one, it will gain whatever changes it has through natural aging. And number two, it will refer to its training plan and its activity. And then based on that, it will update also some training stats. That's how it's intended to work. That's what we are implementing now. There's a few steps remaining to hook that up, actually, since we haven't actually touched the testing of aging. So that's another thing actually on our list. Now we're still working only with 2-year-olds across the board. So we'll also be testing that going forward now that we have the main functionality going. But training is actually part of aging. We're treating it as part of aging. And it is one of our next immediate work activities, actually. This question, some angles in the 3D viewer appear less realistic. Would it be possible to eliminate those view angles? Yes, actually. So one of the pros, one of the cons of having a fully interactive 3D viewer is that if you allow the user to fully view or fully control the view from different angles, there's bound to be bad viewing angles or ones that don't look as great. Actually, what we showed in the Invitational was more of a kind of freestyle control, which we don't intend for the final product. The final product should have more bound controls. Like you guys might have, I think I've seen a lot of comments or praise for the side view, which was tracking the horses. So that kind of view will be pre-programmed, and there will be several options so that the user can control, but it's not a freestyle control. And unless we manage to actually improve the views from all angles and the freestyle control adds value to the users, we might be able to enable it. But the intention is to have guided cameras, basically, where you can still switch between horses and can still switch the views, but don't have full control to just move around like I was doing in the invitation. And there's a few more questions on Discord. So one question was, are you guys thinking, this is from Utero, who I think is watching us live actually right now, and I see also another question here. Are you guys thinking of jumping ship like other projects and go on Base Chain or Solana? I want this project to stay in Cardano. Now, first of all, just bear in mind, we've spent several years developing this project to work on Cardano and on EUTXO model. So there's a much heavier, let's say, weight to just carry and pick up and move to another chain. That's from one side. But we also have little incentive, I would say, to move after we've already spent all of this time in having a functional, let's say, software. We've already paid that cost, I would say, in one way. But we also often have this internal debate even between our own management team in what are the risks and rewards from being on Cardano. And from the technical side of things, there's, I think, plenty of rewards, which we can cover separately, and I think it needs a full session. But from the risk side, some could say the liquidity and the size of the market are a real challenge. And one way we think we can actually tackle this is, what if we can enable sign-on and the user experience from other chains while the background is in Cardano? What does it matter to the user? If they can use their MetaMask and come and connect their wallet and enter their horses, for example, if that works seamlessly, then what really is it? I mean, there is obviously the business development side of things and the VC support, etc. But if it's a functional product, I think it matters much less than when we're talking about the development side of it. And we realize that the size of the Cardano community isn't, or the volume, let's say, isn't as big as other blockchains. So it's a valid concern. But we see this also as a problem that can be reduced significantly by having more cross-chain, let's say, interaction support. Nick, I think you unmuted.
I'm muted to say that we also created a Cardano improvement proposal, SIP86, and the old Oracle and Indexer technology to make sure that we could update our NFTs efficiently on the Cardano blockchain. So I think our expertise and all of our investments on the technical side right now are specifically for Cardano and would not translate to any other chain. So that's a pretty big investment. Also, the whole crowd investment from buying the initial NFTs came from Cardano. And so there's kind of an incentive to stay on Cardano, right? For all of those reasons also.
I think if it becomes a question of survival at some point in time, and we have no better option than to, for example, take that chunk and cost and move over, that might be a time to think of that. But I don't think we're anywhere close to that. And actually, the cost of moving over to anything other than Cardano is probably bigger, at least in the shorter term, than staying on Cardano. So it's an interesting question, but I think the short answer is we don't have anywhere on our short, mid, or even long-term plans to move our core, let's say, code from Cardano, unless there's a new substantial reason to do so. I think 3 more questions. 2 from Speed Farm. One is the frequency with which you raise with a particular horse unlimited, or are there some cooling off periods required after a certain number of races over a period of time? We have a 5 races per day limit right now implemented. So at the end of the day, there's a reset for the racing count, and every horse with the current parameters would only be able to race 5 times per day. So that's there. There's a question: do all players pay the same entry fee for a given race, or can they stake different amounts? Right now, it is all designed to have a common entry fee for all participants. I think if people find value in raising the stakes, I think it's interesting. We don't have that actually supported right now in the smart contract. So we wouldn't really be touching it now while we're in shipping mode. We wouldn't be touching it as a soon to implement feature, because we're kind of closed off all the new features and we're just trying to finish and ship this product. I'm not saying it's not worth considering. I think for updates as an interesting concept. And when I would say not if, but when somebody, I think it's a matter of time, when somebody does implement wagering externally, I think that also could be an option for somebody to enter their horse and also add a bet on it. I guess it's not really exactly the same outcome, but it's a similar, let's say, higher leverage entry position. So that's one. There's, I think, the last question, unless there's others, or there's one also on stream, plenty of questions. Can you share what, this is from DVNC, can you share what benefits you expect from the partnership with Reflekt? What are their strengths and what do you get out of the box with the partnership? So Reflekt is an interesting platform, I say. We've been talking with them for a long time, and I think we have mutual interest in each other's products. What Reflekt does right now already in a way, and I think with even more ambitious plans on their platform is, and whoever's looked at what Reflekt do, is they have an interesting platform for games in general, and there's a lot of focus on some of the features that are allowed by blockchain, including NFTs. And that just makes sense that we join that part of the platform. That what that will bring to Equine is one more place for Equine to be listed on, for people to see the game and discover it. So anybody who's playing any of the other games on Reflekt would have a chance to see Equine and interact with it. So we think it generally broadens our market size. That's one. Plus, there's a few other technologies, but it is primarily related to user acquisition. And we think it also allows for more opportunities to just have a structure and a place to base ourselves. We are still going to keep our main platform running from our game, so you can just come to our web app and interact directly. And that's actually going to be our main development and product. The Reflekt integration is merely to add Equine as an option also on there for people who are interacting from that launcher or from that platform. It's still fairly early, I would say, in how we integrate, due to both platforms being fairly young. But we see a win-win mutual interest there, and we think it's going to be better for Equine as a project, but also better for the users. The more players we have, I think it's a better experience for everyone in the ecosystem. Okay, there was a question of, will we have to activate our horses to register for this event? No, you have to activate your testnet horse. So we'll give you a testnet clone. That's what we intend, at least, to give you a testnet clone that you will be able to go and activate and name, but your mainnet horses will remain unactivated until the project launches on mainnet. So just avoiding a misunderstanding there. Let me see if there's any.
Well, just quickly, I think Utero asked, is it just me, but the website is still slow to load? Well, the main website is still a very old version while we're working on a beta website a lot. Beta website will get quicker, but it will get much quicker now that we've got specific optimizations coming. When it's good and it gets more optimized, then we'll update the mainnet. But for now, there's no good reason to update the mainnet because it's kind of an in-between version. So we're waiting until we got release 1.0, basically. Like the beta would be ready to play for racing and breeding, and then we'll update the mainnet. So yeah, the mainnet might still be slow. It's really not optimal.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will be much better than the current stable seed experience after these changes are implemented. Just a bit more work I say to do to get this up, but yeah, the main web app will be updated with the mainnet release, as Nick just mentioned. Okay, I think no more questions. There's a request from Buscat Rover, clips with sound to share on X, please. Yes, we will do that. I think you mean the race. So I have recordings of those races that have sound working as should be. And we'll get to sharing that. So thank you for the reminder. And without further ado, I don't see any more questions. Thank you for attending. Thank you for joining us in this town hall. We'll see you guys at least in the next town hall, if not earlier. Wishing you guys a great remainder of the weekend. And we, as usual, we'll keep you posted with any interim updates between now and the next town hall. And we'll see you guys soon. This is Fahad Ukan signing out.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.